لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى. يا رب لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الله به الغمة وجاهد في سبيل ربه حتى أتاه اليقين. اللهم اجزه عنا وعن والدينا وعن الإسلام والمسلمين خير ما جازيت به نبيا عن قومه ورسولا عن أمته. اللهم احينا على سنته وتوفنا على ملته وأوردنا حوضه واسقنا من يده الشريفة شربة هنيئة لا نظمأ بعدها أبدا. ثم أما بعد, my dear respected brothers and sisters, just to reflect on the meaning of fasting, I want to reflect today on this ayah, Surah Al-Ma'idah, or part of an ayah, the second ayah of Surah Al-Ma'idah, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ, cooperate in righteousness and piety, but do not cooperate in sin and aggression. 4 terms have been mentioned here: ithm, birr, al-taqwa, al-udwan. Obviously, the word ithm is the opposite of birr, because birr means all kind of good deeds. All kind of good deeds. The word birr is a very comprehensive word that includes all kind of good deeds, whether we do it with our heart or with our actions. And al-ithm, of course, al-ithm is committing a sin, to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the opposite of taqwa is al-udwan, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ta'awanu al-birr wa taqwa wa la ta'awanu al-ithm wal-udwan. So the opposite of al-birr is al-ithm, and the opposite of taqwa is al-udwan, which translates as aggression. Al-udwan could be violating the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or violating the rights of the people, huququllah and huquq al-ibad. And taqwa is protection, to protect ourselves from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or from the consequences, generally speaking, from the bad, evil consequences of our evil deeds or bad deeds. Taqullah means that create protection between you and the wrath and the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the question is, do sins invalidate fasting? I know people always ask about whether brushing our teeth in the daytime of Ramadan invalidate our fasting or not, drawing blood, and all these kind of questions. But the bigger question, in fact, do sins, when we commit a sin while fasting, does this invalidate our fasting? There are 2 opinions here. One is the opinion of the majority of the Muslim scholars, which is, no, if you commit a sin, then it's a sin, but your fasting is still valid. And they are focusing obviously on the legal definition of fasting. But it's also important to know that many of the great scholars, I'll mention some of them today, they said or considered committing sins while fasting invalidate fasting. No one asks these kind of questions. We always ask these trivial questions about what invalidates fasting, but great scholars like Imam Al-Awza'i, Imam Ahl Sham, Imam of Syria, said that he believed in that. Imam Al-Nakhai was the Imam of Ahl al-Kufa, said that they used to think, and he's referring to the Sahaba and Tabi'in, he's one of the great Tabi'in, Imam Al-Nakhai, that they used to think or believe that lie invalidate fasting. Someone lies while fasting, his fasting is gone, and he or she must make up this day, because lying and fasting cannot coexist. And similarly, Imam Al-Thawri, Sufyan Al-Thawri, radiallahu anhu, known as the 5th Imam, by the way. Imam Al-Thawri has perhaps more knowledge than Abu Hanifa and Malik. He does not have very intelligent students who wrote his madhab. Anyways, Imam Sufyan Al-Thawri is a great Imam of the Tabi'in, also believed that. And obviously Imam Muhammad ibn Hazm al-Andalusi al-Zahiri, because they look at some hadith narrated in Bukhari and Ibn Majah, in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever does not give up forged speech and evil actions, Allah Allah is not in need of his leaving food and drink. Hadith in Bukhari. If someone keeps lying and giving false testimony and giving, saying foul words while fasting, then Allah does not need his leaving food or drink. In other words, there is no value for his fasting if he or she insists in lying while fasting. The other hadith narrated by Ibn Majah radiallahu anhu, in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there are people fast and get nothing from their fast except hunger. So these great ulama I mentioned, they looked at the literal meaning of these ahadith and they said, well, if this is the case, then it's obvious that if you commit these kind of sins, then your fasting is over. Then you have to make it up. It does not count. And they used to say, Imam Arabi used to say that, do you make your fasting day like the other regular days? Are not equal. You have to really protect your fasting. I remember Ihram, when we are in the state of Ihram, in Umrah and Hajj, always people come and ask these kind of questions. Imam, I use this soap and it has some scent in it. Is by Ihram okay? Do I have to do them? So people are very cautious not to invalidate their Ihram because they don't want to lose their Hajj. Right? In the state of Ihram, one must be very careful. Everything you do, everything you say. And similarly, we used to think of fasting. Fasting day is we have to purify this fast. We have to guard our fasting from anything that may invalidate our fasting. That's why many of them, radiallahu anhum, they either stay in the masjid or stay in their home to make sure that nothing would, invalidate their fasting. Nothing will harm their fasting. They are very cautious and mindful of the fact that they have to guard their fasting. And when they're asked about this, they say we want to purify our fasting. And that's perhaps why we give zakat al-fitr. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, one of the purposes of zakat al-fitr is tuhratun lis-sa'imin al-lagwi wal-rafath. If anything that impure that comes into your fast, any bad action, bad deeds, zakat al-fitr, inshallah, we hope that it will clean up all these impure things. And similarly, perhaps fasting 6 days after Ramadan, during the month of Shawwal, is also, as some ulama says, إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتُ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ, is also a purification of our fasting in the month of Ramadan. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam warned us against as-sab' al-mubiqat, the worst of all deeds. Akbar al-kaba'ir, he said sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the major sins, the major of the major sins, the most serious sins one may commit. And he mentioned some, and then he was lying down sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then he sat up and he kept saying, ala wa shahadat az-zur, ala wa qawlu az-zur, ala wa shahadat az-zur, ala wa qawlu az-zur. Keep repeating it. And Mu'adh, the narrator of the hadith, said, we wish the Prophet ﷺ to stop. It broke our hearts. I warn you against giving false statements. I warn you against giving false statements. Lying is not a big concern. We're not concerned about lying, but we're concerned about brushing our teeth. Rasulullah ﷺ warned us against the major of the major sins. And one of them is giving false testimony, to lie. And you are lying. I'm not saying you. Some people, they lie and they know they lie. They give promises that they know they are not going to keep these promises. And they're not concerned about this. They're not concerned about this. Imam Muhammad Abdul, one of the great reformers in the 19th century, also said that how come that the scholars say that fasting of an oppressor is still valid? Oppressors who kill their own people, men and women and children, with chemical weapons, they're still fasting. Their fasting is perfectly fine from legal perspective, fiqh perspective, yeah, because he not eat or drink anything from Fajr to Maghrib, then it's what fasting is. So we need to really rethink about mubtilat as-siyam, as our ulama talked about. So fasting also teaches us how to resist. It trains us to resist. One of the problems of all humans is that inability to resist. I'm sure you have heard about this very famous marshmallow test done in Stanford University by Professor Walter Mischel. Very famous in the 1960s. They got this group of children and they put them in a room and put one piece of marshmallow in front of them, and they told them that if you want to eat it now, you may, but if you wait until I come back, I'll give you another piece of marshmallow. Some could not resist and they just ate the piece of marshmallow. Others waited for 10-15 minutes until this person came back and they gave them another one. Follow-up studies actually look at the children who resisted the temptation and waited, and they found out that they're doing very well in their life because they are able to resist, to delay the enjoyment. Imam al-Jawzi said one of the great, the summary of my life, what I learned, is that when we sin, we think of the sweetness of the sin, the very short enjoyment we get when we sin, but we don't think about the evil, long consequences of our sin. All criminals regret spending the rest of their life behind bars because they say we were stupid, we did something wrong. So similarly, when we don't think about the evil and everlasting consequences of sin and just want to get it here and now, that's the inability to resist temptation. And the opposite of this is also true, that when we think about how difficult it is to pray Qiyamul Layl or give sadaqah, some difficulties associated with ibadat, generally speaking. But when we think about the everlasting good consequences that come as a result of that, as a result of doing this ibadat, then this will make it easier for us to do it. So, that's Al-Quran that always reminds us of the great reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for those who are doing good deeds. Especially fasting. Because fasting is a very special form of ibadat, about which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُلُّ عَمَلِ ابْنِ آدَمْ لَهُ إِلَّا الصَّوْمَ فَإِنَّهُ لِي. This fasting is just for me. وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. I will reward it. We know, there's almost consensus among all ulama, that when we do good deeds, the reward is multiplied at least 10 times and up to 700 times. You give $1 fi sabilillah, it will be written as if you donated 10, 100, 200, 500, up to 700. So on the day of judgment, you found $700. But fasting, the reward of fasting does not, follow this standard. There's no hisab. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the hisab, the reward of fasting, because this fasting is made for me, I'll be the one who reward you. This 10 to 700 does not apply. The reward of fasting is for me. I will reward them. That's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in hadith, authentic hadith, that there are two joys the fasting person will experience. One joy in this dunya, when he ends his fasting, the day of Eid. And the other joy when he meets his Lord and Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he will be very joyful when he sees the kind of reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not clearly tell us about. It will be a good surprise. Imam Al-Arabi said that the sin of lying is greater than such great reward of fasting, according to the hadith that we just mentioned. Some people will fast but will get out of their fasting nothing but hunger and thirst. Great reward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared. But in this dunya also we can see the reward of fasting by training us to have this strong willpower. These kids who resisted marshmallow, or they passed the marshmallow test, they did better in their life when they grew up. We also need to think about fasting as a weapon sometimes when we are pressured to give up our principles and values. It's a way to resist. You know, Bani Hashim, not all of them were Muslims. But we know the story. Quraysh actually pressured Bani Hashim to hand over Rasulullah ﷺ to them to kill him. Bani Hashim refused to do that. It's a great shame to give up one of your family to his enemies to be killed. That's a great shame. Nobody can accept this. And we know that they suffered this embargo for 3 years. Shaykh Abi Talib. Nobody sells to them or buy from them or give them anything. And they were eating the leaf of the tree for 3 years. Not all of them were Muslims, by the way. Ulama al-Sirah bin Sham mentioned that. Muslimuhum wa kafiruhum. They said, no, we're not going to give you Muhammad. They were almost dying out of hunger, but they resisted. We know in the Battle of Al-Khandaq, when all enemies of Islam came to Al-Madinah Munawwara and Muslims had to dig this trench to protect themselves, they came to Rasulullah complaining, Ya Rasulullah, there's no food. There's no food. And they used to tie a stone to pressure their stomach so that they don't feel the hunger. So they came to Rasulullah showing that the stones on their stomach. And he showed them that he has 2 stones, in fact. Alayhi salatu wassalam. One day he saw this young girl holding a date and going to her uncle with this date. And he called her and he told her, give me this date. And he spread his cloak, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he put this date and he invited everybody to come and eat from this date. Time of hardship. But they resisted. Hunger was not an issue. Supplies were not a big deal. For Napoleon and Alexander the Great, one of the biggest problems, military problem, is supplies. But for Muslims, that's not an issue. We have food, alhamdulillah. We don't have food, we'll continue to resist. Mahatma Gandhi also used this fasting as a weapon against the British. We all know the story. We don't have to wear fancy and nice clothes coming from Manchester. We'll make our own clothes, even if he has to be half naked. That's okay, that's fine. And people follow him. No one can find salt except the salt that's sold by the British. In the beginning they said we will eat without salt. And then they said we'll make our own salt. Let's go to the ocean and make our own salt. Sometimes people under the materialistic pressure, they cannot resist and they give up their principles. They have to lie and cheat. But fasting teaches us that you must be strong enough, even if you have to give up your food to keep your iman and your faith and your principles. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our fasting and accept especially from our brothers and sisters who fast for 22 hours in Iceland and Norway and Stockholm. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for them, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them the best of His reward for fasting all these long hours, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this month of Ramadan month of rahmah and maghfirah and itq min an-nar. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. عباد الله اتقوا الله وأطيعوه إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم إنا نسألك رزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. اللهم اصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا واصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا وأصلح لنا آخرتنا التي إليها معادنا. اللهم اجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير، واجعل الموت راحة لنا من كل شر. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث، فأصلح لنا شأننا كله. اللهم لا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين ولا إلى أحد من الناس يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين. اللهم انصر دينك وكتابك وعبادك الصالحين. اللهم انصر من نصر دينك واجعلنا منهم، واخذل من خذل دينك ولا تجعلنا منهم. اللهم إنا نسألك من الخير كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم، ونعوذ بك من الشر كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم. نسألك من كل خير سألك منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، ونعوذ بك من كل شر استعاذك منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. نسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل، ونعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل. اللهم اجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها، واجعل خير أيامنا وأسعدها يوم نلقاك وأنت راض عنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين، وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين، وانصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين. اللهم وحد كلمتنا وارفع رايتنا، وألف بين قلوبنا، وأصلح ذات بيننا، واهدنا سبل السلام، وأخرجنا من الظلمات إلى النور، وجنبنا الفواحش والفتن ما ظهر منها وما بطن. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأقم الصلاة.